Yo, good morning, Rooster McNuggets. Hey, I just wanted to kind of be transparent about a game I've been playing for years with myself, and I've been waking up to the fact that I'm playing this game this whole time, and as it was brought more to my attention this morning. I figured I'd share it with those that are interested. Because maybe they're playing this game too, and if you're playing this game, it's there's keys to it that well, first off, you have to acknowledge that you're playing that game, and then there are rules. So the game that I'm talking about is what was impressed upon me this morning was using my inside voice. So So I'm constantly having this dialogue. It's mostly my ego trying to label things, and sometimes it's quieter than others. And but when it's active, I'm loosely watching it and paying attention loosely to what the conversation that is progressing, and it usually is playing with several different concepts at once. But if I can kind of tune into certain ones, right, I'm like pulling on the thread of these subjects, and the key is to be as clear as possible with myself about this process, in the sense that as I notice these thought patterns, that I try to be as specific as I can. So like, I'll see something like, and then I'm loosely watching my thought patterns, and I'll see something that is interesting, but I'll inquire deeper on it, and I'll be like, yeah, but I'll be my own devil's advocate, as it were. So I'll poke at it and say, yeah, but here's the hole in that argument, or here's the hole in that. And so I'm kind of having this dialogue with myself. So here's what I want to show is key, though. Not only is it key that we're clear about this game that we're playing, or as clear as possible. It's not something you can force. We're just recognizing that the ego is kind of out there playing with these ideas and concepts that our soul wants to explore, and so we want those to meet. And that's where, at the crossroads, where we find God, as it were. So because it's a falling away of the ego, falling away of the self, the little horn, so we can see the greater picture and understand what these dynamics mean. So as I'm moving along on this conversation, I'll come to some kind of conflict, and then the key is to not look away, or justify. So oftentimes, more often than not, we'll say, yeah, okay, I see that, but that can't be. We'll explain away a miracle, is what we're trying to do. We've come to some kind of conclusions about God and His reality, and we understand that there are certain behaviors wherever we're at that we're trying to manifest and get in line with and get in harmony with. And we'll reach a point where it'll ask something of us to step out in faith, because it'll be like, okay, well, if that's actually how the world is, then you should behave like this. If you actually believe that, then you wouldn't act like that, like you've been acting. You would act like this, right? And so 9 times out of 10, if not more, I'll see my ego jump up and be like, yeah, but this is different because these circumstances are blah, 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 blah. And it's really a cop-out. It really has nothing to do with the initial argument, because I've already clarified it to myself. So, and of course there are exceptions. There are times where there are legitimate, like, exceptions. That's what we're looking for. But we want to dial into that and see what it is. And oftentimes we'll actually see what I've experienced over many years and what I've been trying to capture on these videos over time is that that's where something else gets a chance to take place, and we have an opportunity to let go of our limited perspective on things. I mean, the main one that comes to my mind is that tugs on my heart every day is my son. I still can't see my son every day, and I let that go because it's in other people's hands. They've made decisions that they don't want me to be in his life, even though I want to be in his life. And so until they change their mind, or my son is old enough to make a mind of his own, I have to respect that. That's universal law. And that doesn't mean that I can't do everything on my end to make sure that that I'm being the best father that I possibly can be, even though he's not around. And that in doing that, my ego wanted to do other things, because I was so hurt, for a long time. And we've all felt this on different levels. But that one was super acute. And so along with everything else we were going on in society, I could see how a toxic relationship that I was in is much like the people who are in a toxic relationship with who they call their rulers. And so anyways, I got to what was I supposed to do? Ride that roller coaster all the way down? It's like, no, like somebody has to do I believe, trust in the spirit. There's these things that you get to a point where it's like, okay, well, that just doesn't hold water. The justification that you're using for the circumstances that you're in to continue on the actions that you're doing just doesn't hold water. But we're not really clear about the conversation we've been having with ourselves. And this is oftentimes we get into therapy and with counselors and we talk with people to keep us on this consistent dialogue so that we can find our true self. So, and I'm telling you that I've watched miracles happen, that the miraculous is consistent. It is the norm, but we've been trained out of that because we've bought on a bunch of lies. And the only way that I know how to unravel those lies is to be aware of these frames of mind that we accept and we put on ourselves, because it shapes how we interpret the greater reality, and that is the ego, our interpretation. But we don't want to live in the interpretation, even though that's where we have to begin. We want to understand that as an interpretation, and we need it our interpretation to align with the greater spirit, the greater cause, So, anyways, just something I thought that was super useful, because if you want to tap into the miraculous, because then you can see something will happen. Like what happens is, and y'all have seen it with this outreach and just my son, and it happens with every circumstance. When one door closed, many more open. So when you go, okay, well, if that's how it is, then your will be done, then all of a sudden we level up. We at least put ourselves in an opportunity and a position to accept things as they are. And once we do that, then we can take a different perspective that is actually productive, not counterproductive, because we've come to terms with what is. Until that point, we were trying to make it something that we were trying to do decisions on something that it wasn't, and that's why we kept going in this downward spiral. So we have but when we clarify that crossroads, then we get to see the majesty of the Most High, because we know where we were headed. We're clear about that. And then we do that time and time and time again, and you get to realize that yourself is a mirage, what we think of ourselves, and that this world that you're looking at right now with these two eyes, is Maya, is a mirage. It's a reflection of our eternal self. And that you cannot experience that for yourself until you walk that path, until then. These are just words to you, and you may think that I'm full of hot air, and that's fine. I'm not trying to sell anything here. This is how things work, and fortunately we've been hoodwinked because we forgot. We forgot, and that's okay. It's okay to forget, but it's time to turn around. We can look, and if the question arises in our heart and mind, well, where am I at, and who am I? We can start to unravel that by having these dialogues. So it's not what we've been told it is, and it isn't until we have that first-hand experience. It's a direct experience that you have. You can't even argue with yourself on that. Like, until you try to unravel it, but once it happens time and time and time again, because you have a methodology, you have a formula of coming to the cross, right? And bearing it and saying, okay, well then let me be nailed, right? Then only then can we see the divine. So yeah, life is eternal, and you're a part of that. Love y'all.